Let me ask you a question. Have you ever noticed how the people who seem unstoppable, the ones who always land on their feet, live with a different energy? It almost feels unfair sometimes, doesn't it? No matter what happens, they find a way through. They walk into a room and you can sense it. They're not waiting for life to give them permission. They've already decided who they are, and the world eventually just follows that decision. Now, here's the truth I want you to hear with every cell of your body. Life doesn't give you what you deserve. It gives you what you expect and embody. Most people are waiting for the right moment, the right proof, right opportunity before they start living fully. But that moment never comes because it's not about waiting. It's about acting as if you are already that powerful, already that confident, already that capable. When you act as if, something extraordinary happens. You literally rewire your brain, you shift your energy, and the world around you begins to bend in your favor. Opportunities appear, doors open, people respond differently. Not because life suddenly changed, because you changed first. And I promise you this, if you stay with me for the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to step in this mindset so powerfully that it transforms the way you walk, talk, work, love, and create. If you give me your full focus, you will leave this moment with a new lens for life, one where everything all works out because you've decided it must. When I say your mind shapes your reality, I'm not giving you some empty motivational slogan. I'm talking about a fundamental truth that's been proven over and over again, not just in psychology, not just in neuroscience, but in the lives of every person who's ever turned their vision into reality. Think about it. Every invention, every achievement, every breakthrough in history existed twice. First, it lived in someone's mind. It was a thought, an image, an idea, and then it became something you could touch, feel, and experience in the real world. Nothing you see around you was created without someone first holding it in their imagination and believing in it strongly enough to make it real. Now, here's where most people get stuck. They think their mind is simply a reflection of reality. They look at their circumstances, their bank account, their relationships, their health, and they say, this is my life. This is how things are. And because that's what they believe, their brain looks for evidence to keep proving that story. If you believe you're unlucky, your brain filters out anything that shows you opportunities. If you believe you're not good enough, your brain magnifies every little flaw, every mistake, every rejection. You literally live inside the prison of your own thoughts. But when you decide to act as if, when you train your mind to carry certainty even before the evidence shows up, your reality begins to shift. This isn't about lying to yourself. It's about choosing a state of mind that empowers you instead of paralyzes you. It's about deciding that your thoughts are not just mirrors of your life, they are blueprints of your future. The difference between someone who rises and someone who stays stuck isn't their resources, it's their resourcefulness. It's not the cards life dealt them, it's how they play those cards. And how they play is determined by how they think. Imagine walking into a room filled with people. If your mind is consumed with self-doubt, with the belief that you don't belong, you will shrink, you'll hesitate, you'll hold back your energy, and guess what? The room will reflect that back to you. People will sense it, and you'll get exactly the response your mind was predicting. On the other hand, if you step into that same room acting as if you belong there, as if you've got something valuable to contribute, your energy changes. You stand taller, voice carries differently, you make eye contact, you project certainty, and people respond to that energy. Same person, same room, same circumstances, but two completely different realities created by one thing, your mind. Here's the part most people don't realize. Your brain is wired to seek coherence. That means it wants your actions and reality to line up with what you already believe. If you believe you are capable, the brain pushes you to act in alignment with that belief. If you believe life always works out, you start seeing proof everywhere because your brain is scanning for it. This is why the most important decision you'll ever make is not what you do, how you think. Because your thoughts create the filter through which you see the world, and that filter decides whether you find possibilities or roadblocks. Now, some of you might be thinking, but what if I don't feel it? If I try to act as if and I feel like a fraud, that's where the power lies. You don't wait for the feeling to show up first. You generate it. You don't wait for confidence to magically appear. You step into it by choosing different thoughts. You don't wait for success to validate you. You validate yourself by thinking and acting from a place of success now. The feelings follow the action. The proof shows up after the belief. You've got to stop waiting for evidence before you give yourself permission to change. This is how your mind literally shapes reality. If you think of yourself as a victim, you'll always find proof that life is unfair. If you think of yourself as someone unstoppable, someone who bends circumstances to your will, you'll find proof of that too. Whichever story you tell yourself is the story that becomes true for you. It's not because the outside world changes overnight. It's because your perception changes, your energy changes, your decisions change, and those shifts create an entirely new trajectory. I'll give you an example. Let's say two people lose their jobs. One says, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. I'll never recover. Life is against me. And because that's their belief, their mind shuts down. They stop looking for solutions and they spiral. The other person says, this is the opportunity I needed to finally step into something bigger, something that lights me up. And because that's their belief, their brain kicks into gear, starts looking for possibilities. connects them with people. Sooner or later, they find something far better than the job they lost. Same circumstance, two completely different outcomes, all because of the story they told themselves in their mind. You've had those moments too. Moments where you shifted your perspective even slightly, and suddenly a situation that looked impossible turned into an opportunity. Maybe you thought you couldn't handle something, and then you reminded yourself of all the times you've overcome before. Suddenly you had strength you didn't know was there. That wasn't luck. That was your mind shaping your reality. That was you deciding what things meant. So when I tell you to act, as if I'm not asking you to deny reality, asking you to choose the lens through which you see it. You can either see life as happening to you, or you can see life as happening for you. You can either wait for circumstances to improve before you shift your thinking. You can shift your thinking now and let the circumstances catch up, because they will. They always do. The outer world eventually reflects the inner world, and I want you to feel the gravity of this. The single most powerful weapon you have is not your circumstances, not your background, not even your skills. It's your ability to control and direct your mind. If you take control of your mind, you take control of your destiny. If you don't, we'll hand you scraps, and you'll spend your life convincing yourself that's all you were meant for. But the truth is, you were designed for more. You were built with the capacity to create, to influence, to manifest a life beyond what you can see right now. And it all starts in your mind the moment you decide to embody that truth, to think, to act, to move as if you already are who you're meant to be. Your reality starts shifting. Not someday, not 10 years from now, but immediately, because you're no longer waiting for life to hand you permission. You've already chosen. That's the moment everything begins to work out. Identity creates action. That's the truth most people overlook. You believe yourself to be will always dictate the choices you make, the risks you take, and the way you show up in the world. You can't consistently act in a way that is out of alignment with your identity. Your behavior will always match the person you think you are. If you see yourself as someone who is constantly struggling, constantly behind, constantly unlucky, then every decision you make will unconsciously reinforce that identity. You'll play small. You'll hesitate, you'll sabotage opportunities because deep down, you don't think you deserve them. But if you shift that identity, if you decide that you are a leader, that you are disciplined, that you are capable and worthy, suddenly your choices start to rise to meet that new standard. Think about it like this: identity is the thermostat of your life. If a thermostat is set to 70 degrees and the temperature drops to 60, the system kicks in to raise it back to 70. If it climbs to 80, the system cools things down to bring it back. That thermostat doesn't care about the weather outside. It doesn't care about circumstances. It's set at a certain level, and everything adjusts to bring it back there. Identity works the exact same way. If your identity says, I'm the kind of person who never follows through, then even if you start strong, eventually you'll do something to return to that baseline. If your identity says, the kind of person who finishes what I start, then even if life throws distractions at you, you'll fight your way back on track, because that's who you are. Most people are trying to change their life by focusing only on behavior. They say, I'm going to eat better. I'm going to wake up earlier. I'm going to stop procrastinating. And they might do it for a little while, but it doesn't last. Why? Because the identity underneath hasn't shifted. They're still telling themselves, lazy, I'm undisciplined, I'm not that strong. And sooner or later, their actions return to match that story. But when you change your identity first, when you say, I am disciplined, I am strong, I am committed, suddenly the actions that align with that identity become natural. You don't have to force them, because your brain wants congruence. It wants your behavior to match the person you believe yourself to be. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone who wants to quit smoking. If they say, I'm trying to quit, what are they really telling themselves? They're still identifying as a smoker, just one who's attempting to stop. But if instead they say, I don't smoke, I'm not a smoker, they've shifted their identity. And when the identity changes, the behavior follows. You don't have to fight yourself when you're simply acting in alignment with who you know you are. This is why acting as if is so powerful. You act as if you're already confident, already successful, already disciplined. You're training your identity to expand. You're telling your brain, this is who I am now. And then your actions fall in line. That's why you've seen people who once lived in chaos, who once felt lost, suddenly flip the switch and build extraordinary lives. It wasn't just their circumstances that changed. It was their identity. They went from, I'm the kind of person who fails, to, I'm the kind of person who wins no matter what. And everything else followed. But here's the trap most people fall into. They want the results before they adopt the identity. They want the money before they see themselves as wealthy. They want the relationship before they see themselves as lovable. They want the achievement before they believe they're capable. And it doesn't work like that. The identity has to come first. If you want to be wealthy, you need to see yourself as someone who creates value, someone who attracts abundance, someone who knows how to manage and multiply resources. If you want love, you need to see yourself as someone who is worthy of love, who brings love into every interaction. If you want success, you need to see yourself as someone who takes massive action, someone who follows through, someone who refuses to settle. The identity comes first, the results come after. Here's the beauty: you don't have to wait years to change your identity. It can shift in a moment. It's a decision. It's the moment you draw a line in the sand and say, this is who I am now. It's when you stop saying, trying, and start saying, I am. It's when you start treating new habits like experiments and start treating them like your new standard. That's the power of acting as if. You're rehearsing the identity until it sticks. Once it sticks, your life begins to reflect it. Now, some of you might be thinking, but what if I don't fully believe it yet? That's where repetition comes in. You keep showing up as that person until your brain accepts it as truth. Every time you make a choice in alignment with your new identity, you're carving it deeper into your nervous system. Every time you prove to yourself, yes, I followed through. Yes, I showed discipline. Yes, I acted with confidence. You're stacking evidence until it becomes who you are. And once it becomes who you are, no one can take it away from you. Think about athletes, performers, entrepreneurs, the best in the world. They don't just practice skills. They embody identities. They don't just run plays. They see themselves as champions. They don't just take risks. They see themselves as leaders. Their actions are powerful because their identity is unshakable. And you have that same power. The question is, what identity are you living from right now? Is it empowering you or is it chaining you? Here's the truth. You're already acting in alignment with an identity. You just might not like the one you've chosen. So if you're going to act as if anyway, why not choose to act as if you're the person you've always wanted to become? Why not decide right now that your identity is no longer based on your past, but on your vision? Not step into the belief that you are disciplined, you are confident, you are powerful, and let your actions rise to meet that. Because once you change who you believe you are, your entire life begins to follow. That's the moment identity creates action, and that's the moment your future begins to shift forever. Energy transforms circumstances. It's not just what you do that shapes your life, it's the state you're in when you do it. All had those days where nothing seems to work out, where every little thing goes wrong, and it's not because life suddenly turned against you. It's because of the state you carried into those moments. When your energy is low, you're stressed. When you're fearful, the world seems heavy, people feel distant, problems look bigger than they are. But shift your energy, even slightly. And suddenly things that looked impossible start to feel manageable. Conversations flow easier, opportunities appear, solutions you couldn't see before become obvious. It's almost like life bends itself to meet the energy you're carrying. Think about someone you've met who lights up a room the second they walk in. They don't even have to say much. You just feel something shift when they're around. And on the other hand, you've met people who drain the energy the moment they arrive. You can feel tension, heaviness, and you almost want to move away. That's not coincidence, that's energy. And the truth is every one of us is radiating something into the world at all times. The question is, what energy are you radiating? Are you sending out faith, certainty, joy, resilience? Or are you sending out fear, doubt, stress, and hesitation? Because life will reflect back whatever you project. This is why acting as if is so powerful. When you act as if everything is working out for you, you elevate your state. You bring energy into your body that says, I've got this. I can handle whatever comes my way. And when you're in that energy, people treat you differently. They sense confidence. They trust you more. They want to be around you to work with you. They want to open doors for you, not because you said the perfect words, but because the energy you carried spoke louder than anything else. I've watched people lose everything. The ones who rise again are the ones who never lost their energy. They didn't let fear dictate their tone, their body, their attitude. They decided that even in the middle of chaos, they would carry faith. And because of that, opened that would have been invisible if they had stayed in fear. The world responds differently when you walk through it with an elevated state. And I want you to remember something important. Your energy is contagious. If you're a parent, your kids pick it up. If you're a leader, your team picks it up. If you're in a relationship, your partner feels it. You're transferring energy every moment of the day. If you walk into a room tense, stressed, shut down, people feel that and they either mirror it back or withdraw. But if you walk in with passion, with certainty, with the belief that things are working out, you lift everyone around you. That's not just good for them. It multiplies back to you. Because the moment you shift the energy of the environment, you start receiving different outcomes. We've all had those times where we were nervous and the situation went worse than it had to. Maybe it was an interview, a presentation, conversation with someone important. Your body was tight, your words stumbled, and it seemed like nothing clicked. That wasn't because you weren't capable. It was because your energy was sending out uncertainty. We've also had times where we walked in feeling unstoppable and it felt like the world conspired to support us. The same person, different state, completely different outcome. That's the power of energy transforming circumstances. Now, here's where it gets real. You don't need the circumstances to change first before you shift your energy. Most people get it backwards. They say, once I make more money, I'll feel abundant. Once I'm in the right relationship, I'll feel loved. Once I achieve my goal, I'll feel confident. And because they're waiting for the result before they generate the energy, they stay stuck. But if you reverse it, if you choose to feel abundant now, to feel loved now, to feel confident now, then you start acting differently and that energy starts pulling the circumstances into alignment. The outer world begins to catch up with the inner world. This is why faith beats fear every time. Fear shrinks your energy. It makes you play not to lose. It keeps you hesitating. Faith expands your energy. It makes you play to win. It gives you courage to take risks, to speak boldly, to step forward even when you don't see the entire path. That's why people who carry faith look like they're lucky. It's not luck, it's energy. They step into situations expecting things to work out, and life responds to that expectation. If you want proof, just look back on your own life. Think of the moments you felt unstoppable. Maybe it was a big win, a time you overcame something you thought you couldn't, a season where everything clicked. During that time, you carried a different energy. You woke up with enthusiasm. You approached challenges with creativity. You weren't waiting for guarantees, you were moving with certainty. And because of that, you created momentum, and that momentum changed your circumstances. The same principle works in the opposite direction too. Think about times where you were stressed and fearful. Even small obstacles felt like walls. Conversations felt heavy. Nothing seemed to flow. That wasn't just the world against you. That was your energy filtering everything through a lens of tension. Your state shifts down, your circumstances seem to follow. But when your state elevates, the circumstances begin to shift in your favor. So the real question is not, how do I change my circumstances? The real question is, how do I change my state? Because when you master your state, when you learn to shift your energy, no matter what's happening around you, life bends towards you. And the truth is, you already have the ability to do it. You can change your body, your breath, your focus in a moment, and when you do, your energy changes instantly. You don't have to wait for life to fix itself. You can generate the state that makes life respond to you. This is the secret that separates those who thrive from those who survive. Thrivers don't have easier lives. They just refuse to live in a state that disempowers them. They decide, I'm going to live with energy, with passion, with certainty, no matter what's going on. And because of that, their circumstances eventually rise to match the energy they're carrying. That's the power you have right now. You can carry an energy that transforms the room you walk into, the conversations you have, the opportunities that come your way. You can decide to embody joy, faith, resilience even before you see the proof. And when you do, you'll find the proof shows up faster than you ever imagined. That's the moment energy transforms circumstances. That's the moment everything begins to shift in your favor. Action precedes evidence. That's one of the greatest truths about success and transformation that most people never grasp. Too many people are sitting around waiting for the perfect conditions, waiting for the guarantees, waiting for the proof before they move. They say, once I know for sure it will work, then I'll take the step. Once I see the results, then I'll commit. Once the timing feels right, then I'll act. And what happens? They wait, they stall, they spend their lives circling the runway, but never taking off. But the people who create extraordinary lives understand something different. They know that the evidence never comes first. It never has. It never will. The evidence shows up only after you've had the courage to take the leap. Action creates momentum, and momentum creates results. You don't wait to feel confident before you act. You act, and the confidence shows up because you prove to yourself that you could do it. You don't wait for certainty before you move. You move. Certainty grows because you realize you're capable of figuring it out as you go. Think about any big shift you've made in your life. Maybe you took a risk. Maybe you changed direction. Maybe you went after something that scared you. At the time, you didn't have all the answers. You didn't have all the every step. You didn't have proof that it was going to work, but you acted anyway. And because you acted, things started to unfold. You met the right people. You learned the skills. You discovered opportunities that were invisible when you were standing still. That's how life works. The map only reveals itself once you're moving. This is why acting as if is so powerful. When you act as if things are already working out, you don't sit around waiting, you move. You behave as though success is inevitable. And because of that, you take the actions that create it. People often say, I'll start once I feel ready. But ready is a myth. If you're waiting to feel ready, you'll be waiting for the rest of your life. Ready doesn't come from thinking. Ready comes from doing. The moment you take that first step, your mind and body rise to the occasion, and suddenly what felt impossible begins to feel natural. I've seen people trapped in hesitation for years, stuck in the loop of overthinking. They want all the evidence before they commit, and in the meantime, life passes them by. Opportunities slip away because opportunities don't wait for perfect timing. They reward bold action. On the other hand, I've seen people with less experience, fewer resources, fewer connections, but they move anyway. They start before they're ready. They say yes and figure it out later. And what happens? They gain momentum. They make mistakes, sure, but those mistakes teach them more than hesitation ever could. And soon enough, they're ahead of the ones who've been sitting around waiting. This is how you break through fear. Fear feeds on inaction. The more you think about what could go wrong, the bigger it grows. But the second you take action, fear begins to shrink. You realize it wasn't as bad as your mind was telling you. You realize you're more capable than you thought. Action is the antidote to fear. Action turns uncertainty into clarity. Action turns doubt into confidence. The people who live extraordinary lives are not the ones who have no fear. They're the ones who act in spite of it. Think about a child learning to walk. They don't sit there waiting until they've mastered balance. They don't say, I know for sure I can walk without falling, then I'll try. They just take a step. They wobble, they fall up, they try again. And every step they take is evidence. Every fall teaches them balance. Every attempt builds strength. That's how they learn to walk, not by waiting, but by moving. And it's the same for you. You don't learn confidence by waiting to feel confident. You don't learn success by waiting until you're certain. You learn by moving, by failing, adjusting, by continuing. The world doesn't reward hesitation. The world rewards boldness. Look at the people you admire most, the ones who inspire you. They didn't have everything figured out before they started. They didn't know every step of the journey. They just had the courage to move, to act, to step into the unknown. And because of that, the path unfolded for them. Evidence appeared because they created it. Here's the paradox. People think if they wait until they're ready, they'll avoid failure. But the truth is the only real failure is not moving at all. The only way to guarantee you don't get the result you want is to sit still. Action always moves you forward. Even if you don't get the outcome you planned, you learn, you grow, you gain experience, and that makes you more prepared for the next step. Inaction gives you nothing but regret. And this is why so many people feel stuck. They're waiting for a sign, waiting for evidence, waiting for the perfect moment. But the sign is the fact that you're alive right now. The perfect moment is the one you're in. The evidence will show up after you take the step, not before. You've got to be willing to bet on yourself before the world bets on you. You've got to act as if the result is already on its way and move in that direction with certainty. That doesn't mean you won't stumble. It doesn't mean everything will go exactly to plan, but it means you'll create momentum, and momentum is what carries you across the finish line. Once you're moving, even small actions compound. One call leads to another opportunity. Bold step introduces you to someone who changes everything. One small win fuels the confidence for bigger wins. None of that happens until you move. So I want you to see hesitation for what it really is, a thief. It steals time, it steals energy, it steals your future. And the only way to break its grip is to move, even when you don't feel ready, even when you don't have all the answers. Because the moment you act, you create evidence where none existed before. You turn possibility into reality. You turn dreams into steps and steps into results. And that's the truth most people miss. Evidence doesn't give you action, action gives you evidence. And when you truly grasp that hesitation dies, your future begins. Faith beats fear every single time. Fear is the invisible wall that stops people from living the life they're capable of, while faith is the force that pushes you through that wall and into possibility. The difference between people who live limited lives and those who live extraordinary ones often comes down to this one choice. Do they let fear control them, or do they choose faith when it's hardest? Fear is primal. It's wired into us to keep us safe, to stop us from walking into danger. But what happens is that fear doesn't just keep us safe, it keeps us small. It whispers, what if you fail? What if they laugh at you? What if it doesn't work out? And most people listen, they shrink back, they stay quiet, they settle for less than they deserve because fear convinces them that the risk is too high. And the tragedy is they never get to see who they could have become because they let fear make their decisions for them. Faith works differently. Faith doesn't ignore reality. Faith decides to believe in a future that hasn't shown up yet. Faith says, even if I can't see how, I trust that I'll find a way. Even if it looks impossible right now, I know things can shift in my favor. Even if there's no evidence yet, I believe the outcome will come if I keep moving forward. That belief changes everything. It changes how you think. It changes the choices you make. It changes the energy you carry. As we've already talked about, the energy you carry shapes the way life responds to you. Think about it. Fear and faith are actually the same thing. Both are about believing in something that hasn't happened yet. Fear is belief in a negative future. Faith is belief in a positive one. If you're already going to believe in something unseen, why choose the version that paralyzes you instead of the one that empowers you? Most people don't even realize that when they're living in fear, they're exercising faith. They're just putting their faith in the wrong direction. They're betting on failure instead of betting on possibility. Every major breakthrough in your life has required faith. Maybe you didn't call it that at the time. Think about it. The first time you went after something you weren't sure you could achieve, the first time you made a bold decision, the first time you pushed yourself beyond your comfort zone, you had no guarantees. You didn't know for certain how it was going to play out, but you trusted yourself enough to take the step. That was faith. And it's because of that faith that you grew, you achieved, you created momentum. Faith is the reason people build businesses without knowing if they'll succeed. It's the reason people fall in love without knowing if it will last. It's the reason people chase dreams that seem bigger than them. Without faith, humanity would have never invented, never discovered, never advanced. Everything we take for granted today, every piece of technology, every medical breakthrough, every accomplishment was born because someone had faith that they could bring into reality what didn't yet exist. Now, fear will always be there. You can't eliminate it. Anyone who tells you they're fearless is lying. The difference is that successful people don't let fear make the final decision. They hear the voice of fear, but they don't hand it the steering wheel. They choose faith instead. They move forward even while afraid because they know that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action in spite of it. And the more you choose faith over fear, the stronger that muscle becomes. Here's the other thing. Fear makes you focus on everything you could lose. Faith makes you focus on everything you could gain. Fear makes you play defense. Faith makes you play offense. Fear keeps you in survival mode, just trying not to lose ground. Faith puts you in creation mode, building something new, reaching for something bigger. And here's the truth. Life doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards boldness. The people who step out with faith create opportunities that would have never existed if they waited for fear to disappear. Let's be honest. Most people think they're being rational when they hesitate, but what they're really doing is covering fear with logic. They say, no's not the right time. I need more certainty. I'll do it when I'm ready. But deep down, it's fear talking. Faith doesn't wait for certainty. Faith moves and creates certainty along the way. Faith says, I'll figure it out. I'll learn. I'll adapt. Keep going until it works. And that mindset opens doors that fear would have kept locked forever. If you want proof, look back on the moments in your life where things really did work out. Maybe it wasn't in the way you expected. It worked out. That's not coincidence. That's not luck. That's what happens when you trust that life isn't happening against you, it's happening for you. And the more you anchor yourself in that belief, you find yourself taking actions that align with it. And when your actions line up with faith, results follow. Faith doesn't mean everything will be easy. It doesn't mean you'll never stumble. It means you trust that even the setbacks are part of the process, even the failures are feedback, even the challenges are shaping you into the person you need to become to reach the vision you're chasing. Fear sees obstacles and stops. Faith sees obstacles and says, this is temporary. This is teaching me something. This is preparing me. And because of that, faith always wins in the long run. And here's what I want you to remember. Your faith doesn't just impact you. It impacts everyone connected to you. When you live in fear, you spread that fear. You pass it on to your kids, your team, your partner, the people who look to you for leadership. But when you live in faith, you give them permission to believe too. You become the example that shows them what's possible. Your courage awakens theirs. And that ripple effect can change more lives than you'll ever know. So in every moment, you have a choice. Do you let fear shrink your world? Do you let faith expand it? Do you put your belief in everything that could go wrong? Or do you put your belief in everything that could go right? Do you hand your life over to the voice that says, don't try, don't risk? Or do you step into the voice that says, go for it, trust it, believe it? That choice will define the quality of your life more than anything else. Because at the end of the day, fear may keep you safe, but it will never let you soar. Faith is what allows you to live, to grow, to create, to experience life at its fullest. Faith is what transforms hesitation into momentum, doubt into courage, and dreams into reality. And the moment you choose faith over fear, your entire future begins to expand. Consistency turns belief into reality. It's not the one-time burst of motivation that changes your life. It's the repeated choice to show up every single day as the person you've decided to become. Too many people think transformation happens in some grand dramatic moment, like lightning striking. That's not how it works. Real change happens in the quiet, in the discipline, the repetition of acting in alignment with your vision long enough that your brain, your body, and eventually your world catch up. Think about it. Anyone can do something once. Anyone can wake up early one morning, eat clean for a day, go to the gym once, start a new project with a burst of enthusiasm. That's not hard. The challenge is doing it again the next day and the next, especially when the excitement has worn off. Especially when no one is watching, especially when there's no instant reward. That's where most people quit. They want quick results, and when life doesn't immediately reflect their new decisions, they fall back into old habits. But the ones who win, the ones who actually create lasting transformation, the ones who keep showing up with consistency, even when they don't yet see the evidence. This is why acting as if isn't a one-time trick. It's a lifestyle. It's choose to step into the identity of the person you want to be every single day until it becomes automatic. It's not about perfection. It's about persistence. You won't always get it right. You'll stumble. You'll fall. You'll have days where you slip back into old patterns. But consistency means you get back up, you realign, you recommit, and you keep going. Over time, those repeated choices compound. Small actions done daily become unstoppable momentum, dripping on stone. One drop does nothing. 10 drops do nothing, but drip after drip, day after day, that water can carve through rock. That's the power of consistency. It's not glamorous, it's not flashy, but it's unstoppable. Your life works the same way. You may not see the shift right away, but if you keep showing up, keep acting as if, keep holding the energy and the identity of the person you want to become, it's only a matter of time before the outside world has no choice but to reflect that. This is where so many people sabotage themselves. They underestimate the power of consistency. They think if they don't see results in a week or a month, it's not working. But the truth is, the results are stacking behind the scenes. Just because you can't see the roots growing doesn't mean the tree isn't taking hold. Just because you can't see the muscles after one workout doesn't mean your body isn't changing. Just because you don't see instant success doesn't mean the foundation isn't being laid. Consistency is what bridges the gap between belief and evidence. And here's the beauty. Consistency doesn't just create results. It rewires your identity. The more you act as if, the more your brain begins to accept it as truth. Every time you show up, you're casting a vote for the person you're becoming. Each repetition strengthens that identity until it becomes natural. At first, it may feel forced. You may have to push yourself, remind yourself, discipline yourself. But with consistency, it becomes who you are. You don't have to think about it anymore. You become it. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone who wants to build confidence. The first time they speak up in a meeting, it feels uncomfortable. Their voice shakes, their palms sweat, but they do it anyway. That's one act of faith. Then they do it again tomorrow and the day after that. Each time it gets a little easier. Each time their brain is recording, this is who I am now. I'm someone who speaks up, someone who contributes. Over weeks and months, that belief solidifies. They no longer have to act as if. They simply are. That's the power of consistency, transforming belief into reality. Consistency is also what builds trust with yourself. Every time you follow through, you're sending yourself a message, I can count on me. And that's powerful because most people don't trust themselves. They've made promises and broken them so many times that they don't believe their own words anymore. But the moment you start showing up consistently, even in small ways, you rebuild that trust. And once you trust yourself, your confidence explodes because you know no matter what happens, you'll keep moving forward. This isn't about massive leaps. It's about daily alignment. Do something every single day that reinforces the person you've decided to become. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Consistent actions are more powerful than occasional big ones. If you want to be healthier, don't focus on one extreme workout. Focus on moving your body every day. If you want to grow financially, obsess over one big breakthrough. Focus on managing and multiplying your money consistently. If you want better relationships, don't wait for one perfect gesture. Focus on showing up with love and presence every single day. Consistency compounds. Here's the truth. Consistency isn't just about discipline, it's about alignment with your vision. If you know where you're going, if you've already decided who you're becoming, then consistency is simply the act of living in alignment with that decision. It's not about grinding yourself into exhaustion, it's about choosing to stay true to the identity you've already claimed. That's why acting as if works. It's not about faking, it's about practicing until it becomes real. You've seen this in your own life. Think back to a time you committed to something and stuck with it. At first it felt hard. Eventually it became natural. Maybe it was a habit, maybe it was a skill, maybe it was a goal. Over time, the repetition made it part of who you are. And just like that, the thing that once felt impossible became normal. That's what happens when you commit to consistency. You normalize the extraordinary. The truth is, people don't fail because their dreams are impossible. They fail because they quit too soon. They let inconsistency kill their momentum. They let impatience rob them of results that were right around the corner. If they had just kept going, if they had just stayed consistent a little longer, they would have broken through. The difference between those who make it and those who don't often comes down to nothing more than who kept showing up. So the challenge is this: don't just do it once. Don't just do it when you feel like it. Don't just do it when it's easy. Do it every day. Do it when you're tired. Do it when you're unmotivated. Do it when no one's clapping, because that's when consistency is building the foundation of something unshakable. And here's the reward. You keep acting as if long enough. You keep embodying that vision every single day, and eventually you won't have to act anymore. It won't be something you're trying to do. It will be who you are. And when it becomes who you are, your reality has no choice but to align with it. That's the moment consistency turns belief into reality, and your life becomes the proof of everything you once only imagined.